Hey there guys, welcome back. Today we are covering a brand new commander from Secret Lair, Storm the Force of Nature. Technically not out yet, it comes out I think in November. Single printing, first time, kind of pricey, already around $40 for this card. It is a broken commander. We are a 4-mana commander and teamer, we are a mutant hero, probably not a relevant creature type. We have flying and vigilance, and our ability is whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm, which, if you haven't used it before, when you cast it, copy for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. Not just your spells, your opponent's too, so everything that's been casting the entire turn or your opponent's turn, you count everything up, and you get that many copies before the spell you've cast. It's a very broken commander. We are using double strike to get multiple instances of Storm onto one card. We're having multiple combats to get more combat damage onto things, to get more copies of Storm, and we're just trying to break that circle. An important part to this deck being a Storm combo deck, spells are pretty low costed and they replace themselves with a new card on the draw. Or we have a lot of untapped mechanics or cards that technically work out free mana to try and get our Storm count nice and high, just to make our low cheap budget spells turn out to be huge value. So for double striking our commander, Twin Phono is the replacement for Team of Battle Rage, gives us options at the same cost and same speed. You can copy spell off of this, or you can give your commander double strike. Psychotic Fury gives your commander double strike and draws a card, love it. Assault Strobe just gives you a commander double strike at sorcery speed, so you do it in main phase 1, but it's cheap at 1 mana. And then you have the extra combat spells. You have Savage Beating. This is probably the best one in the deck by far, because if you pay the Entwine cost, you give all your creatures double strike, and you get an additional combat phase. If you don't pay the Entwine cost when you copy it by any means, you're picking one mode. Seize the Day is a cheaper combat spell which has flashback, which we care about because we're going to try and recast it from the graveyard to get our Storm count even higher. Overpowering Attack is a nice cheap one as well. If your commanders don't damage, you can pay the free running cost at 3 mana, have an additional combat phase. Great Train Heist is a great fun one. If you want to copy it, you've got to make sure you've paid all the modes, otherwise you're going to be copying nothing. So at 4 mana minimum, extra combat, the staple at instant speed. Pay that 1 additional red, choose opponent whenever creature you control deals combat damage to that player, create a tap treasure token. If you're going to be beating your opponent for a few turns or a few extra combat phases, or a lot of double striking because it's every time you deal combat damage, you can get a ton of treasure tokens and bank up a lot of mana for the next turn, hopefully. Alright, a simple example, very basic version of it. Storm's out, ready to attack, you pay 1 mana, give her Assault Strobe, Storm count is at 1 because of Assault Strobe, and now she has double strike. You go to combat, you hit the player twice because you've got first strike and normal hit from double strike. You now are giving your next instant or sorcery spell 2 forms of Storm thanks to your commander. Let's say we cast Brain Freeze, which makes a target player mill 3 cards and it has Storm built in itself. So now you've got Storm 3 times on 1 card. Storm counts at 1. So you're going to create 3 copies because you have 3 instances of Storm going on there. If you had Storm count 2, each of those Storm triggers would be 2 additional copies. So if your Storm count is at 2, you get 6 copies of the card plus the original. Very basic, but scale that up with extra combat phases, a way higher Storm count, better quality spells that don't have Storm on them, but are way better value. Just the commander can break any good value instant sorceries by far. Helm of the Host, it's a bit of a favorite card for me if you haven't worked it out. Probably a fetish at this point. Beginning of your combat, you create a token of the equipped creature. If it's legendary, the token is not legendary. The fact is at the beginning of combat, this deck has a lot of extra combat steps. You get multiple copies of Storm in 1 turn, and of course if you have multiple Storms going on, she hits the player multiple times, which means the next instant sorcery spells have way more Storm effects added onto them. These are our big payoff spells that are big, they're going to win us a game, or they're just fun. Sturge to Victory, you exile target instant sorcery card from your graveyard. Creature you control get X0 equal to its CMC turn to turn, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, copy the exiled card and you can cast it without paying its mana cost. It's a cast, so it adds to your Storm count, and if you have an extra combat spell in the graveyard, you just win the game because you get to have another combat, another combat, another combat. You can just ride one person down into the ground. Expropriate is a big dumb spell. You're picking stealing stuff or having extra turns. Give that thing Storm and you're probably going to win the game because you're going to take extra turns and you're going to take a lot of permanents of other players. I love Bribery and Acquire. I really want to use Bribery as a win condition in this deck. If you get enough copies of Bribe through Storm, you can try and steal all your opponent's best creatures, or if they're in a tribal deck, you can try and steal their tribal out of their deck and make it yours. And Acquire is here because everyone runs good artifacts in the commander decks these days. Let's go and see what they got. Volcanic Torrent has Cascade, which Cascade spells in Storm gets really messy, but you're going to get to play a lot of cards free off the top of your deck thanks to Cascade when you have multiple copies of this going on. But it's our board removal. It just deals X damage to each creature and Planeswalker opponent's control, where X is the number of times they've cast spells this turn. Of course, with a Storm deck, going to go to town. Elemental Rupture is a way we're just going to crush opponents dead with 4/4 Flying Dragons with Prowess. The spell itself has Storm. Just, here's all my dragons, deal with him. Oh, Prowess, it got bigger. Rishgard's Expertise is a big dumb draw spell in this deck, and it lets us put things for free from a hand with CMC 5 or less into play. Love it. Festival of Embers and Past in Flames do have a similar thing here. They both let us play in our graveyard. I do not care about paying the 1 life in addition to the card CMC to play it again from the graveyard. Really good with cantrips, gets that Storm count up nice and high, and similar concept with Past in Flames. Only downside is you've got to pay the initial 4 mana investment or the flashback at 5 to get it going. Okay, to get our Storm count up nice and high, lots of cantrips here. Just pick your best favorite cheap 1 mana draw spells. If they're instant, there's a trick you can do with your commander if it's got double strike. Let's say you want 2 different spells that have Storm. You can, after first strike is dealt, you could cast your instant spell to get Storm on that one, whatever you choose of course, maybe be a cantrip, and then it goes to regular damage, and now your Storm count's ticked up a little bit, and you get another Storm trigger on the next spell, if you wanted to. The Phyrexian mana cards are really good in this commander because you're not paying a mana cost, it's a free spell. The Probe's great, Revival is hilarious because you can get a card from your graveyard back on top of your library, or if your opponent scries or you see they've got some junk in the graveyard, put it back on top of their library to stuff a draw, and Gut Shot can be a damage dealer. Our rituals are really easy because they are spells that replace themselves in the form of mana. The rituals are good for your extra combat spells because they're usually in red, and your Past in Flames to get them going. Manamorphose, of course, replaces mana and draws as a card. Love it. Really a juicy card with a ton of Storm triggers on it. Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth are cheap spells in the sense if you put them on a land that's not one you've tapped to cast it, the next land you tap will make up the mana cost, and the cheap 1 mana spells is getting that Storm count even higher. Explore and Growth Spiral, draw us a card and play additional lands. Then with Storm counters just gets us ramping far ahead. Grape Shot, traditional Storm card here. So having Storm built in and multiple instances of it can just kill players outright or just blow up the whole board. Anything you need. You saw Brain Freeze earlier, just a fun card to try and mill people out or like remove their resources. Lightning Bolt, I normally don't recommend a commander, but having a Lightning Bolt ×6 can be pretty good. Ignite Memories is a card I've wanted to make work for a long time. Kind of expensive at 5 mana, but the player reveals a card at random from the hand, and it deals damage equal to them, equal to the card's CMC, but it has Storm itself. If your opponent's got a loaded hand, big dumb spells in it, you have like Storm 5 on the thing, you can maybe burn your opponent out dead with this card alone. Twining Staff, it just says if you copy a spell 1 or more times, make an additional copy. Storm is copies of a spell, so you get a Storm +1 basically on everything you do, and itself can pay a lot of mana to copy an instant sorcery you control. Could be an option. Okay, supporting themes for the deck. Solve the Equation is a good tutor in the sense that it puts it to our hand. I wanted to go Mystical Tutor, but it puts it on top of the deck for any instant sorcery you go for. But if you're storming away on Mystical Tutor, there's no point putting it on top of your deck because you're going to keep shuffling your library. Not worth it. Bear Umbra is protection for your commander in the form of Totem Armor, but whenever it attacks, you untap all your lands you control. Really important to try and storm off having extra mana, of course. Snap, bounce your opponent's stuff back, untap lands, it's a free spell in that regard. Frantic Search is a draw with untap 3 lands, again it's a free spell in that regard. Turnabout can be a really fun card in this commander in forms of mana generation. You name land to untap all your lands, and when you go to create your extra copy through Storm, in response you tap all your lands to float the mana, and you just keep doing that and build up a ton of mana. Unwind and Rewind are counter spells that untap our lands, which we care about in this commander, of course, and we are heavy in counter spells to protect our commander while it's trying to beat on our opponents to get more copies of Storm. Counterspell and Offer Refuse, Muddle Mixture and Negate are just cheap, simple counterspells. Run what you like, but cheaper the better. I do like Muddle the Mixture because of the transmute. You can go and get like Grape Shot or something with it if you need to get a finishing spell. Tavar Stand and Tamiyo Safekeeping are really good forms of protection. Both at 1 mana make our commander hexproof and indestructible. Just keep sending it in there. And just totally off topic, Tamiyo Safekeeping is a common at like $4 and it is pretty good. Slip Through Space and Artful Dodge are a way to give our commander in main phase 1 unblockable. I like Slip Through Space because it replaces itself through draw, and Artful Dodge has flashback for the exact same cost in the graveyard. Lightning Greaves to give our commander haste as it enters, and Mithril Coat to give our commander instant protection. Into Ramp, we want cheap spells here too to help contribute to our spell count. Bird's Paradise and Halfling are great, any colour we need for our commander. The Goblin and the Mentor here, they make most of our deck cheaper and they're only 2 mana each. The Stormkiln Artisan is broken with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you create a treasure token. So every time you cast pretty much anything in our deck that's instant sorcery or storm it, we can bank up treasure tokens to do more things with, probably have more combat phases. Nature's Law, just get a forest, go and get your Shocklands or your Tri-land. Into Mana Rocks, nothing too special. Arcane Signet, Sol Ring, it's commander. Relic of Legends can tap for any colour, and you can tap an untapped legend you control to add 1 mana of any colour. Your commander has Vigilance, so in 1 turn of normal combat, you could generate 2 mana through this artifact. But if you're having multiple combats that untap all your creatures, your commander gets to attack and then tap for more mana with the Legends Relic. Paradise Mantle, same concept. It's a free equipment, so spell count 1, but our commander has Vigilance so it can attack and then tap the mana while in combat, and we can continue to untap it with extra combat spells. Lands, I hate saying it, but in a deck where we're trying to storm off and we always want to be drawing good stuff, having lands that can thin our deck down do give us that little advantage. I hate saying that in Commander, but it is true here. So run what fetches you can. So I would run the Triumph, your 3 Shocklands, your 3 relevant fetches, but you could run more. Reptile can be handy because you do draw a ton of cards. Your 2 Horizon lands that can draw, be sacked to draw cards are handy as well. The Mystic Sanctuary can get us an instant sorcery on top of our library back from our graveyard. Again, handy to have. I've gone our 3 Buddy lands, our 3 Temples, Command Tower, and the Frontier just for a good spread of all our colours online. Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic and Bountiful Landscape are those kind of cheap budget filter lands. And then we have our dual Ravnica lands because we have a lot of abilities to untap all our lands or spells untap X amount of lands. Getting more value out of these would be pretty good. And then we run 3 of each basic just to keep a nice even color base. Alright, that is Storm. She is a very broken commander to be. The fact that the Storm is generated by any spells being cast and it just says your next instant sorcery will get to be copied that many times is nuts. She has a long-term aspect to her as well because there's always going to be good instant sorceries being built. I could see her being really good in competitive EDH. She can be good in budget as well. She has a lot of options here. Yeah, I've just kind of gone the more traditional Storm aspect, like cantrips, rituals, keep going, play a couple big dumb spells and try and win the game that way. Really cool card. I hate to think how expensive she might be because of this. Pre-sale right now, just under $40. We'll see how she goes. Alright, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed. What a dumb commander. I will get the deck list down below. And give us a like and a sub because we're nearly at 5k. Thank you guys and have a good one. See you later.